The Phoenix Gazette ran a front-page story that should have rewritten every history book on the planet. An underground city, found deep inside the Grand Canyon, and then the story vanished. The article was explicit. A lone explorer, G.E. Kincaid, paddling down the Colorado River, noticed stains on a cliff face some 2,000 feet up. He climbed. What he found was an entrance, a doorway carved into the sheer rock. Inside, he described a vast citadel, a network of tunnels and passages leading to huge chambers, enough to house 50,000 people. Think about that for a moment. An underground metropolis in one of the most inaccessible places on Earth. The Smithsonian Institution, the article claimed, was already involved, led by a Professor S.A. Jordan, ready to excavate what it called the most important archaeological find in history. The report detailed artifacts of a decidedly Oriental nature, tablets covered in a form of hieroglyphics, weapons made of hardened copper, and a crypt filled with mummified bodies, each wrapped in bark cloth. These weren't the ancestors of the local Hopi tribes. The story suggested a colony from ancient Egypt or even Tibet. It sounds impossible, right? But here is where it gets interesting. This wasn't some footnote on the back page. This was the lead story, on the front page of a major newspaper. So, what happened? You would expect this to be the biggest news for a century. Instead, a wall of silence. We contacted the Smithsonian. Their response is telling. They have no record of a Professor S.A. Jordan. They deny any expedition to the Grand Canyon in 1909. They claim G.E. Kincaid, the explorer, doesn't appear in any of their correspondence. The official story is that the newspaper article was a complete fabrication, a hoax. Case closed, you might think. A simple piece of yellow journalism from the early 20th century. It's an easy explanation, almost too easy, because questions remain. Why would the Phoenix Gazette risk its reputation on such an elaborate lie? And if Kincaid was a fictional character, who fed them the incredibly specific details? The location, the artifacts, the very layout of the caverns. The official narrative asks you to believe it's all smoke and mirrors, a campfire story. But there's one piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit. One fact that remains stubbornly, dangerously real. If the story is a complete hoax, why is there a strictly enforced, government-mandated no-fly zone directly over the area Kincaid described? Established decades ago, hangs heavy over the very coordinates G.E. Kincaid described. It's an official secret, maintained with a silence that speaks volumes. Why restrict access to a place that supposedly holds nothing? You might think it's just a coincidence. But how many coincidences does it take before it becomes a pattern? And here's where it gets interesting. The story of the Grand Canyon's hidden city isn't an isolated incident, not by a long shot. This isn't the only time ancient, impossible structures have surfaced, only to be swept back under the rug of official history. Consider the case of Dr. W. F. Libby, the Nobel laureate. In 1950, Dr. Libby pioneered carbon-14 dating, a scientific breakthrough. His methods allowed us to accurately date ancient artifacts, pushing back the known timelines of human civilization. His initial findings, however, caused a stir. He found that many sites, long considered relatively recent, were far, far older. This challenged established archaeological theories. Think about what that means for a moment. Suddenly, our understanding of human origins was being fundamentally questioned by science itself. What do you think happened next? Did the scientific community embrace these new, radical dates? Not entirely. Some of Dr. Libby's results were met with resistance, even skepticism. The established narrative was comfortable, it was safe, and it was deeply entrenched. Read that sentence again. Science, by its very definition, should be about constant reevaluation. Yet some truths are simply too inconvenient. This pattern of denial, of discrediting evidence that doesn't fit, echoes through history. You see it again and again. For example, in 1968, a discovery in Romania shook the world of geology. Near the Mureș River, construction workers unearthed a wedge of aluminum. This wasn't just any aluminum, it was 90% pure. and it was found alongside mastodon bones, buried 35 feet deep. The mastodon bones were dated to 10 million years ago. Imagine that, 10 million years. Aluminum, as a refined metal, was not supposed to exist until the 19th century. Yet, here it was, deep underground, a manufactured object decades, perhaps millions of years, out of place. The official explanation? A lost tool from a modern excavation. But 35 feet deep? Alongside mastodon bones? Nobody questioned why a modern tool would be found there, at that depth, with such purity. The artifact simply disappeared from public view. This is how these stories are managed. They are dismissed. They are quietly removed. And then, they are forgotten. What if these aren't isolated anomalies? What if they are pieces of a much larger puzzle? Pieces that suggest a different, more complex past for humanity. One that includes technologies we cannot yet comprehend. Think back to Kincaid's description of hardened copper weapons. Copper smelting is a known ancient technology, but hardened copper? That implies an alloy, a specific manufacturing process, a process not commonly attributed to the indigenous cultures of that region in that era. The level of sophistication he described for the entire underground city, enough to house 50,000 people, is staggering. This isn't just a cave dwelling. This is complex engineering. It demands a level of societal organization and technological prowess that challenges our conventional timelines. And it demands resources, huge amounts of labor, materials, and knowledge. Where did it come from? The Smithsonian's official denial of Professor S.A. Jordan and the expedition is curious. Why erase all records of someone who, according to a major newspaper, was leading such a monumental discovery? It is a systemic erasure, a deliberate act. It makes you wonder what else has been erased. What other facts have been quietly scrubbed from the archives? These are not mere academic debates. These are fundamental questions about who we are and where we come from, the very foundations of our history. And the answers, it seems, lie buried, not just beneath desert cliffs, but beneath layers of carefully constructed narratives. What if the no-fly zone isn't about protecting a hoax? What if it's about protecting a secret? A secret that changes everything. Isn't protecting a hoax. It is protecting a secret that fundamentally changes everything we thought we knew. The official narrative, carefully constructed over decades, insists on a simple truth. The Kincaid story is a fiction, a journalistic anomaly. But what if the anomaly is not the story itself, but the official response to it? This isn't just about a newspaper article. It's about a pattern of suppression. Think about what that means for a moment. Every single piece of evidence that challenges the established timeline of human civilization seems to meet the same fate: dismissal, disappearance, denial. Consider the case of the Ica stones from Peru. Hundreds of engraved andesite stones depicting dinosaurs, advanced medical procedures, and even telescopes. They were discovered in the 1960s. Their existence directly contradicted the accepted timeline of life on Earth. The stones were too precise, too detailed, too impossible. The official explanation? A hoax. A local farmer, Basilio Ushkuya, claimed he carved them himself. He signed an affidavit. But here's the part nobody talks about. He later recanted, stating he was forced to confess under duress. He faced imprisonment if he didn't. What do you think happened after that? The stones, and the questions they raised, were conveniently swept away. You won't find them in mainstream archaeological texts. They simply don't exist in the accepted academic world. This systematic erasure is not accidental. It is a deliberate act. It makes you wonder what else has been erased. What other facts have been quietly scrubbed from the archives? In 1961, Dr. Y.C. Shih, a geologist at the University of California, Berkeley, examined an object found embedded in a geode near Olancha, California. It was a perfect spark plug, encased in rock millions of years old. The rock formation itself was dated to 500,000 years ago, according to Dr. Shih's geological analysis. A spark plug, 500,000 years before internal combustion engines existed. The official explanation? Again, a modern object. Somehow, it fell into a crack and was naturally cemented into the rock. But the object was not merely cemented. It was an integral part of the geode. Its structure was perfectly aligned with the crystalline growth. This wasn't a crack. This was an object formed within the rock itself. This object, dubbed the Coso artifact, was analyzed by experts. They confirmed it was a manufactured device. The materials, the design, the precision, all pointed to an advanced technology. Yet the scientific community largely ignored it. Why? Because it didn't fit. It couldn't fit. You see a pattern emerging here, don't you? Any discovery that threatens the established narrative is either discredited, explained away, or simply vanishes. The Smithsonian's denial of Professor S.A. Jordan and the Grand Canyon expedition is curious. Why erase all records of someone who, according to a major newspaper, was leading such a monumental discovery? This isn't just an oversight. It is a systemic erasure, a deliberate act. The sheer scale of the supposed hoax, encompassing a major newspaper, a prominent institution like the Smithsonian, and an explorer with detailed findings, strains credulity. The very idea that the Phoenix Gazette would fabricate such an elaborate story, complete with specific names and locations without any consequence, is baffling. Newspapers in 1909 were fiercely competitive. A hoax of this magnitude would have destroyed their reputation. Yet they published it, on the front page, and then silence. No retraction, no apology, just a collective amnesia. What if the truth is far simpler and far more terrifying? What if these artifacts, these impossible structures, these advanced technologies are not anomalies but remnants? Remnants of a civilization or civilizations that existed long before our accepted history allows. The hardened copper weapons Kincaid described from the Grand Canyon. The 90% pure aluminum wedge from Romania, found 35 feet deep. The half-million-year-old spark plug from California. These are not isolated incidents. They are whispers from a forgotten past. Whispers that contradict everything we are taught. The doctrine of denial is a powerful force. It protects our comfort. It protects our understanding of the world. But at what cost? What knowledge have we lost? What history have we suppressed? The no-fly zone over the Grand Canyon is not a tribute to a forgotten newspaper story. It is a barrier. A barrier protecting a secret that could shatter our perception of time, technology, and our place in the universe. What else is hidden beneath the desert? And who is really protecting these secrets? Protects not just a secret, but the very people who hold it. What if the secrets beneath the desert are not just about ancient technology, but about the lives intertwined with them? Imagine a young researcher, Elena Petrova, in 1978, poring over dusty archives in a small, forgotten library. She wasn't looking for impossible technology. She was looking for her grandfather, a geologist who vanished in the Grand Canyon in 1909. His name was Professor Nikolai Petrova. The official record stated he was lost during a routine geological survey. But Elena found his private journals. Journals filled with frantic sketches, diagrams of strange machines, and coordinates that precisely matched the Phoenix Gazette article. Think about what that means. Her grandfather, a respected scientist, had not simply vanished. He had been there. He had seen it. And his work was systematically erased. The official story dismissed Kincaid as a fraud, Professor S.A. Jordan as a phantom. But Elena's grandfather, Nikolai Petrova, was a real man. His disappearance was real. And his journals, hidden from official eyes, told a different tale. He wrote of incredible heat deep underground, emanating from a massive chamber. He described air so pure it felt like breathing mountain spring water. And he sketched intricate carvings, unlike anything known to archaeology. You won't find his name in any public record related to the Kincaid expedition. That's the point. His existence, his work, were scrubbed clean. This isn't just about a lost city, it's about a lost life. A life dedicated to truth, then silenced. Elena felt his presence in those faded pages, the urgency in his handwriting, the growing wonder, then fear. He described walls of polished black stone, reflecting light like liquid glass. He wrote of a humming sound, a low thrum that vibrated through the rock itself. And he spoke of figures, not mummies, not ancient humans, but something else. Something he couldn't quite describe. He called them the architects. He never specified what they looked like, only that they were there, watching. This isn't just a discovery of artifacts. This is a discovery of lives, lives dedicated to guarding these secrets, and lives destroyed by them. Elena continued her grandfather's work in secret for decades. She faced ridicule, threats, but she persisted. She believed his story. She believed in the architects, and she believed the truth would eventually surface. Imagine the weight of that. Carrying a secret that could rewrite history, knowing you might be silenced just like your grandfather. The sheer courage. In 2003, Elena, now an old woman, finally published her findings in a small, self-funded book. It was largely ignored. The academic establishment dismissed her as a conspiracy theorist. Yet, her book contained one crucial detail: a photograph. A grainy, black-and-white image taken with her grandfather's camera. It showed a section of the cave wall, and on it, a symbol. A precise geometric pattern repeated endlessly. It was the same symbol Kincaid had described, the one on the decidedly Oriental tablets. This symbol, Elena discovered, appeared in ancient texts across the globe, from Egypt to Tibet. The very cultures Kincaid had referenced. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a signature left by the architects. She believed the symbol was a form of language, a universal key, a message that has been waiting for us, waiting for someone to listen. What if the no-fly zone isn't just about protecting a secret location? What if it's about protecting the architects themselves? And what if they are still there, watching, waiting for us to finally understand their message? What do you think they are trying to tell us? The answer might be the most profound secret of all. Because the message isn't a story of the past, but a blueprint for the future. Elena Petrova came to believe the symbol her grandfather photographed was not just a signature. It was a circuit diagram, a schematic for a machine. Think about what that means. Not a history lesson. A piece of engineering. When modern physicists are shown the symbol, stripped of all context, they see something unsettling. They see echoes of theoretical models of zero-point energy. This is the scientific principle that a vacuum, what we call empty space, is not empty at all. According to quantum field theory, it is a sea of roiling energy, particles flashing in and out of existence. The official statement from the scientific community is that harnessing this energy is impossible. Pure science fiction. But here's the part nobody discusses. What if it's not? What if the architects left us the key, carved into stone, waiting in a cave for a civilization mature enough to understand it? The implications are almost too vast to consider. Limitless, clean energy, the end of scarcity, the end of wars fought over oil and resources. It would rewrite our world. Overnight, and that is precisely why it must remain a secret. Because a world without scarcity is a world without the current structures of power. Someone stands to lose everything. So the discovery in that desert cliff is not just a relic, it is a question, posed to all of us. We have spent this entire journey asking, what did they build, and how did they know? We have searched for proof. We have hunted for clues in erased records and forbidden zones. Maybe we have been asking the wrong questions. The existence of the architects, proven by the work of Nikolai Petrova and others like him, shows that civilizations can rise to unimaginable heights. And they can fall. They can disappear so completely that they become myths. Their technology is a tool, like fire or the atom. It can warm a home, or it can burn a city to the ground. The choice is never in the tool itself. It is in the hand that wields it. The government no-fly zone, the academic denial, the carefully scrubbed archives. This is all a symptom of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control. But most of all, a deep and abiding fear of ourselves. So the final question isn't about the past. It is not about them.